Hey, how's it going? Samson Folk here, joined by and joining, I suppose, Evan Gualberto on this wonderful YouTube channel that he's crafted over the years with his blood, sweat, and tears. This is Bouncing Around, wherein we talk about basketball league-wide and, as it were, bounce around.
Back when they thought pink polos are hurt the rock before Cam got the shit to pop, the doors is closed. I felt like bad boy street team. I couldn't work the locks. Now let's go. Take them back to the plan. Me and my mama hopped in that U-Haul van.
Okay, Evan. First of all, we'll get into it. But how are you doing? I understand you watched quite a bit of basketball this week.
Did, yes. So, we had some time off. As everybody knows at this point, I coach high school basketball. Had some time off. There were some issues, but I got to watch a lot more basketball than I normally do during the run of the course of the season. So, yeah, been watching a lot of stuff. So, I'm juiced up. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. As if anybody watches the show every week, they saw my beard growing, and now they see that it's gone. So that's news, maybe. I've been eating better. A whole lot of chicken and rice. I'm going to get tattoos, and I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to try and become really good looking so we can just take this show to ESPN. Maybe overtake Inside the NBA, since a lot of people are souring on that. And that takes us into our first topic. Inside the NBA, what are your thoughts on Shaq, Kenny, Chuck, Ernie? Is it antiquated at this point? Are we missing out on it because we don't get the in-studio hijinks and now we're just relying on Shaq's commentary, which has always been lackluster? What's your take on it?
I messaged you this. I haven't really watched Inside the NBA since like 2013, 2014, something like that. I watch so many games and go through so many highlights and cut through so many clips that it's just doesn't really matter to me what other people are saying, because at the end of the day, I draw my own conclusions anyway. But also, like, if there's a take out there that like gets popular or just a reckless take, it gets circulated around anyway, and I see it that way. So I know why people like it from the entertainment standpoint. I've never really gone to watch it looking for basketball insight, I guess. Because, I know a bunch of players and former players, and none of them have the resumes of Shaq or Chuck or even Kenny. But, hey, a pro is a pro. If you know basketball, you know basketball. Some know it more than others, but the guys I talk to, or actually the people I talk to, they know basketball and they watch it. So we talk about the things we see and we send clips back and forth and things like that. If you think you watch more basketball than Shaq, chances are you are, and chances are you do. So I don't know. What do you think?
I would never claim to know more than anybody there. Never. It is the application of the info, of the knowledge that they have, that leaves me wanting. And again, I don't intake a bunch of Inside the NBA, but what's turned out to be, kind of ramping up recently is this brash, in your face type of way they talk to players, as if the players are supposed to understand their resume and not vice versa. Shaq is talking to Christian Wood, for example, as, I'm Shaq, you know me, tell me about you, why are you good? When in reality, yes, Shaq is funny, and when he and Kenny or whoever's racing to the podium and stuff like that, and they have all that kind of stuff going on, and they're big characters. That's a huge addition to what they're trying to do over there. But they're doing the fans a disservice by constantly opining that the way basketball is played today isn't as good as in their day. Big men should be more like how he was. And as if it's some sort of good thing for him to sit there and say, Christian Wood, I'm not familiar with your game. Well, get familiar. get familiar with Christian Wood's game. He averaged 23 and 10 after Andre Drummond got traded out of Detroit. Anybody who watches basketball knew it was a big deal that Houston signed him. And then with Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, I'm not the hugest fan of, but I know that there's been improvements in his game. And Shaq just taking these like very simplistic takes and just chucking them at the players. I don't understand what that does for the viewer unless they're trying to openly antagonize the players for clicks. And at that point, are you Barstool Sports or are you one of the biggest, purveyors of basketball in the world? That's my big thing. It's like, what is the end game here? Because people appreciate in-depth looks. Zach Lowe didn't accidentally become ESPN's #1 writer. That didn't happen accidentally. And Kevin Arnovitz and Tim Bontemps, those guys are also super popular. They get in the weeds. They're very in-depth. Having guys like Stephen A. Smith is in his own thing, but nobody has the comedic timing or like the ability to just go like Stephen A. Smith. You're not going to recreate that easily. So Kevin Hart isn't coming to debate Shaq on the other side of the mic. It's NBA players. So that type of back and forth I don't see as rewarding. And I think it actually it makes fans understand the game at a worse level, because the people who have if you were going to appeal to authority like Shaq, he's failing anybody who's watching, because even though he understands basketball at a level that many people do not, he's speaking about it at a level that everybody understands and a lot of people roll their eyes at. That was a rant.
Just want to clarify.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I get it, man. I just want to say that I'm not claiming to know more than them. No, I would never, ever do that. But I am saying that the way that I like to explain the game, especially to, people who have conversations with me, is like, there's nuance to the game. There's a reason why certain players end up certain places. That not a great example of me being able to dispense insight. But what it is you're hurting your product if all you're saying is the league is soft. This isn't the way that it should be. It's not the way that it was. The truth is, it is the way that it is. Obvious take? Yes. But how is it helping the basketball that you are asking people to watch when all you do before the game, at halftime, post game is like, that's not how I would, like, this is garbage. This means nothing.
And not to mention, one of the biggest bullies in the league, Jokic, you tell him he's from Russia. There's a guy who plays the way you would expect, because Jokic isn't athletic, at least not in the traditional sense. So you say, how would Jokic dominate? Use the body, bang around. Use your excellent touch, which he does. And that's a guy who should garner Shaq's respect. And they say he's from Russia. And Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, probably both in the top 3 in MVP ranking right now. So the top end of the league is well represented by big men who bully. And still every night they're saying, be that, be this. And yeah, it bugs me, because there's no analysis in it. And anybody who's saying, like, this is Shaq giving Donovan Mitchell tough love. Tough love, for example, is Chauncey Billups talking to Kyle Lowry after he got traded and saying, like, you need to change how you're approaching this stuff or you'll be out of the league. And Masai Ujiri did the same thing. But they had examples of what needed to change. It wasn't just like, hey, I don't think you're good on live television. Thoughts. Like, what is anybody supposed to do with that?
So my thing is, if you're going to talk about guys, at least do the research. Shaq, 1 billion endorsements, busy, kids, I understand. You have people who will do the research for you. Don't just say things for the sake of saying them. I'm not, Samson, you and I talk about this all the time. We spent a lot of time watching the games, looking into stats, debating things to talk about. It's not because we can just throw takes out there and hope something sticks, and then, that's publicity. But that's not good for the game. As somebody who preaches sharing the game, sharing knowledge, talking at whatever level you want to talk to me about basketball, like, I'm a fan. I want to tell you what I see, and I don't claim to know more than anybody else. When I talk to people, I'm not pretending like what I am saying like comes with any sort of authority, but I do my research anyway. It's just, I read so many articles and watch so much film so I can talk about this. So I have the confidence to talk about this. Nobody has Shaq's resume, nobody, but like, at least have the people who work for you do some level of research, because the Donovan Mitchell thing, you feel however you want to feel about that. But the Jokic Russian thing, that's like, the dude is a winner. He's an MVP candidate. He was top 5 last year, so on and so forth. Like, you should know him by now.
Yeah. And last thing, as you say, the confidence in your takes doesn't come from your inherent belief in your eye test. It comes from your belief in the work that you put in. For example, like, I don't know definitively what was happening with Pascal Siakam's game, that it dropped off. So I didn't just say, I've watched all these games, I think I know what's going on. I went and watched like over 800 shots that he put up, tried to spot the differences, and then wrote about it, because that's the only way you can do stuff. And there's a trickle-down effect when people put in the work that informs more accurate takes that aren't just sitting on and propped up by clutch time or the it factor and stuff like that. If you just actually go and like watch the game, I think that's the best service you could ever do to the league, because it's a product that's just asking to be watched. And yeah, if you just break it down into they should be Shaq or they should be Chuck, they have to be aggressive, then it's just like snake oil salesmen trying to sell you like their version of basketball. And that's just not what's being played out there, for me anyway.
Just, we'll put a cap on this. It's just, if you want to define your legacy by what these players aren't doing, fine. I understand that. I don't know if anybody is attacking Shaq's legacy, his game anyway. But, that's what it feels like. Players who are analysts now who we just all, if you're a certain age, finished watching play, like, that's what it feels like they're doing, is they're defending their legacy and they're propping themselves up relative to the players today. And, that's servicing what you want to service, but is that good for the game? Does that help the product? I don't think it does. And, I feel as if like-minded people find that it hurts the game more than anything else.
Do you want Paul Pierce to come on there to say these guys aren't Paul Pierce? Or do you want Paul Pierce to talk about the players that are actually part of the product, that are playing, that everybody goes into the stands to watch? And Shaq, I mean, just for me, no matter what Shaq says, no matter how asinine he might be sometimes, like, what does it say that in his free time he decided he wanted to be a cop? Like, I don't know. Anyway, regardless, though, he is, like, in bite-sized games, the most dominant player of all time to me. Like, I consider Shaq at the peak of his powers, like, more impactful than MJ. So he can say whatever he wants, but his on-the-court resume, I don't think should ever be under fire. So I don't know why he has to defend it so often. But there's a guy who comes as close to Shaq that we've seen, who very well may be first in the MVP race currently. If not first, probably top 3. Joel Embiid. You've watched some Philly this week. What have been your takeaways on the home of Rocky?
So I watched both Boston games. Did you catch any of it? Because let me tell you this.
None.
Okay, great. So you're coming into it cold. Just from a number standpoint, Joel Embiid against the Celtics, 42 points, 10 rebounds. How many shots do you think he attempted?
14.
19.
Okay. I was a bit ambitious.
Yeah. Next game, 38 and 11. How many shots do you think he attempted?
Okay. If it's 14, I'll be pissed. But I'm going to guess 22.
15.
Oh,
So,
damn
this
it.
is a great game. This is a great game. And that's what you should, if you haven't already, take the time to watch Joel Embiid. If you can't watch him, look at the box scores, because this man is doing things that, Shaq-like. 15 free throws, 21 free throws the game prior. Just, he's living at the line. He's dominating inside. He'll throw you shoulder fakes and pivots, reverse pivots, just jab, go, give and goes. Just, he's doing a lot of things very efficiently, and there's nothing anybody really can do about it.
Are most of these free throws coming from post touches, or are these rim runs off of, like, is he sneaking into the dunker spot? Is he the roll man, or is this just getting the ball in the post, throwing himself into people, and being too big? What's the breakdown to you?
So I would say it's based on the two Celtics games. I'm not saying that I've watched all 76ers. By the end of the season, I probably will have, just because, if he's MVP, I got to do a video. But it's just post touches, yes. Early rim runs, seals. Like, there's nothing you can do. I guess the biggest thing is shot fakes. You have to bite on his. I guess you don't have to bite on his face up, but Daniel Tice is. There's nothing he can do. If he tries to hold his ground, he's gonna get moved. If he doesn't contest the jumper, Joel makes it. If there's so many answers in Joel's game to the things the Celtics can throw at him or have thrown at him, and he can do it every kind of way. So how do you want it? T-Mac reference there.
Also, was it 50 Cent? How do you want it? Okay, anyway, I'll leave it there. But Joel Embiid, this is an interesting thing to me because he is the king of post-ups in the NBA. Do you think in clutch time that his post-up becomes viable? Because I loved, maybe outside of the Kyle Lowry charges, my favorite thing about the All-Star game last year was Joel Embiid got the ball. Not Giannis, like Joel Embiid. They're like, the best thing we can do right now, toss it into Joel. Let him do his work. That little shimmy post fade on LeBron that he hit, I was like, oh, this is perfection. It's so fun to see. But I can't remember who said it, but they said, effectively, a post-up is a guarded shot. We're trying to get unguarded shots. I don't know where the quote comes from. That's a quote. Does Joel Embiid just completely override that? Is he a viable offense late in games all to himself? Or do you think the way that the roster is constructed around him, that there's maybe limitations to that as far as moving the ball, doubling to get the ball out of his hands and seeing what happens? What are your thoughts?
I believe that you can do so many different things with Joel. If you can get him the ball deep in the post, then you are making the defense make decisions. Are you going to live with him posting up? Are you going to throw a double his way? Are you going to send somebody to dig and then recover? Because the difference between this year and last year is spacing. Shooters on the floor. Seth Curry. Wow. But, the threat of Danny Green maybe more than Danny Green himself. So Joel can do it in a number of different ways, and he has grown so much in his ability to make plays out of the elbow, the post, as the guy going to hand off. This dude can do it all. And I think the thing about it is that you would like him to get a post up late in games, but he's gotten good enough at this point that he knows how to problem solve at a high level in high intensity, high stress situations. So no matter where you put him on the floor, you could even use him as a decoy for Seth or Tobias Harris, who's having a great year. Ben Simmons, at the end of the second Celtics game, was the one who took over at the end of the game. And that was largely because Joel had been so dominant throughout that, like, when Ben Simmons got it and started to go, you know, the Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice were trying to fight off Joel on a hard rim run and post steal that it left Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown trying to stop this freight train that was already in motion. So Joel does so many different things for you that, you know, you can put him anywhere. He'll figure it out.
Agreed. I'm glad to hear you describe it with such flying colors. Okay. Philly, number 1 out east. Game of the week that I gave you includes number 1 out west. Lakers, Bucks. Tell me about it, baby. I want to hear all about Giannis versus LeBron.
So I'm going to do this the way that goodness. So as a basketball coach for high school players, I can tell you that the end of quarters are the most frustrating times for a coach because they can either come as a great source of joy if your team is locked in and producing, or if your team has a lead, you can watch it slip away in the final minute, the final minutes of a quarter, and then just your lead is gone just like that. I can tell you this. The Lakers, the reigning champs, they do not take the ends of quarters off. They are more locked in than they're pretty locked in, which is crazy to say because I think this team is not operating at the best of their abilities, not by a long shot, which is scary. So here we go. Here are my notes. At the end of the first quarter, Bucks are up by 5 going to the final minute. Jrue Holiday hits a 2. Wes Matthews hits 3. And then I'll have the clip of this. Giannis gets swarmed by just length and arms. And I think Montrezl Harrell gets credited with a steal, but he turns the ball over to the end at the end of the quarter. So Jrue Holiday hits a 2, Wes Matthews hits a 3. So we'll say Lakers +1 in the final minute. End of the second quarter. Oh, I texted you about this. I'll have the clip up. It's, let me tell you what it is first, what happens, and then let me finish this. The Lakers are leading by 1. Chris Middleton misses a jumper. KCP hits a 3. Jrue Holiday hits the layup. Anthony Davis 1 for 2 at the line. KCP hits a buzzer beater. So they're +5 in that final minute of the second quarter. Final minute of the third, Lakers lead by 3. Kuzma gets blocked by Bobby Portis. Portis gets blocked by, it's credited as Caruso. It's just the number of arms. Offensive board, DJ Augustine misses a 3. 80 hits a jump hook on the other end. And then Brook Lopez gets blocked by number of arms. I think first it's Kuzma, offensive board. Then I want to say LeBron. So that's +2. So right there, at the end of the 3 quarters, in just the final minute, the Lakers are +8. Lakers won by 7. We're not even talking about the end of the game. That's where you lose stuff. Like I said at the beginning of this, it's Bucks were up by 5 going to the final minute of the first. And then the Lakers just ramped it up. And you can sort of see, and they took this game more seriously because, you know, Giannis is the reigning MVP, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. You know, does the crown thing, whatever. But you have Anthony Davis and LeBron to other All-NBA first-teamers. And so the way they were able to ramp it up at the end of quarters, if that's the type of intensity they brought in the finals, and Miami was hamstrung by a bunch of injuries, but just when they lock in, it gets real scary.
Stylistically, is there definitive trickle down from the Eastern Conference Finals now? Because I'm seeing in every big game where teams view the Bucks as like, okay, we have to scout. All the guys are going to read the scouting report. Everybody's going to run through this. The film is going to detail this. And maybe even during a practice, we go through forming up in transition, the wall against Giannis. Did you find that was present in this matchup?
Yes, but also the Lakers have the luxury of having these guys like Anthony Davis and Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, once upon a time, gave Giannis fits during a championship run, and Marc's nowhere near that level anymore. Defensively, the IQ is there, but he can't move his feet as well. That's what happens when you get older. So in terms of single coverage, they were good. They made the other Bucks, the non-Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday Bucks, beat them. And it didn't pan out for Milwaukee. But yeah, there was a lot of walling up. There was a lot of Giannis is going to take a jumper and Anthony Davis is going to not really be on him, but because of the length of Anthony Davis's arms, that turns into a contest as he's pulling up, because it's not, it's not the quickest release that Giannis has. So as he's loading up for the shot, AD can close that space and turn it into a contest when it just looks like, well, I'm Giannis, I'm making up my mind, I'm taking this jumper. When AD's closing that space, it goes from completely uncontested to now it's a tougher look. And it's already the shot that you want him taking because he's not living at the rim.
Okay, so LeBron James. I know this is a bit like we're touching on very popular topics here, but I'd like to hear your version of it. Late game LeBron seemed to be somewhat of a revelation. I watched that game with my roommate, Lakers fan, Beto, and it's funny. He, before LeBron was on his team, he was like, I hate LeBron. I love Kobe. And now he's like, LeBron is probably the greatest to ever play. I don't know. It's just how I feel. But anyway, LeBron, late game, thoughts. Was there a recipe for success that he followed? Or was it just like this braggadocious, very confident, like jumper in your face from 26 feet? I do what I want. Or was there something working there for him to get advantages?
So the Bucks, I believe, decided to live with Drew Holiday single coverage on LeBron, which I guess makes sense because Giannis is best. And I've seen this a bunch, like people yelling at Giannis for not guarding KD at the end of the game. We talked about this once when you had me as a guest during the finals. Giannis won Defensive Player of the Year, not on the strength of his individual defense, but his ability to be a world-class rim protector and backside helper. He erases so many mistakes for the Bucks. If you are putting him single coverage on a guy, you are taking away what he does best. And chances are, yeah, he might be able to lock that guy up, but it opens things up for everybody else. So I'm good with Drew Holiday as the guy on LeBron. Little undersized for LeBron. I mean, even like-sized guys, LeBron is going to be LeBron on them. But a steady diet of that throughout the game, and you have this, I don't know, freak athlete with a superhuman computer in his supercomputer in his brain, just processing all of these things. It's like he's gonna get what he wants when he wants it, and at the end of the game, when he hit that dagger three, it's because Drew was on AD, and Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday go a ways back, but AD wasn't really moving Drew all that much in the post. So LeBron scrambled to get open with Brook Lopez kind of digging in on AD. AD kicks it out. Bron hits it over the outstretched arms of Brook Lopez. Can you do anything about that? No. But if he's hitting jumpers like that, then there's nothing really you can do. And as a closer, he's taking it to another level. You can see he's always had that. It's been insane to me that he's ever had the reputation of not being a closer, when once upon a time, the best defense in the NBA for consecutive number of years, he put 25 straight on them and 29 of the last 30 in the playoffs, no less. So that was 2006, I believe. I cannot and never understood the reputation of him not being a closer.
And I mean, sometimes guys make shots, sometimes they miss them. LeBron, late game, provides his teammates with incredible shots, like just wide open. If they hit him, I mean, hell yeah, dude. As far as the Drew as a primary, I actually love that. Drew takes your legs out. He's exceptionally good at that because he's so strong. He grinds on you. When you're driving, you'll see that a lot of guys are like, the shoulders are back, but Drew has that reputation where he gets to be a little bit forward. Those forearm chops against thighs, you don't see them, but those forearm chops at the point where you want to explode past Drew, you just took like 3 of them on your leg and your legs are dead. So you have to be taller than him to finish over top, which LeBron is. But with Giannis and Brook Lopez in help side, that makes for what I think is a pretty good scheme defensively to face LeBron in particular and many other players. So I think it's smart. Any other Lakers, Bucks thoughts?
Yes. So I messaged you about this almost in real time. I love this sequence. This sequence blew my mind. Just over a minute left to play. LeBron is on Middleton. Dennis Schroeder is on DJ Augustine. Chris Middleton, the play cuts out, the play that I have, the clip cuts out right after this happens, but Middleton zippers up to screen for Augustine. Schroeder and LeBron are forced to switch. You'll see why I threw that up in a second. Schroeder pushes Middleton slightly past the nail. DJ Augustine clears through. LeBron does the signature, like, point away, somebody else's problem. He doesn't really care about DJ Augustine. LeBron literally just stays at the elbow, and Middleton is forced to put up a jumper over Schroeder, who's fighting him. LeBron, who's standing right there, and another rotating Lakers player. And unfortunately for him, the rotating Lakers player was Anthony Davis. So that's a lot of bodies. Chris Middleton is money from the nail. But over those 3 dudes, that's hard. KCP gets the rebound, outlets to LeBron. LeBron dribbles in the middle of Giannis and Brook Lopez from about the logo to the free throw line. He's swarmed, and he hits KCP with a sort of look away, thread the needle bounce that we know LeBron for. KCP hits that 3. That sequence blew me away. I was so – I messaged like 8 people about it. I was just like, did you just see that? You need to watch it.
He's remarkable. And so I have a question. Chris Middleton. If I'm a fan of the Bucks, I actually like Chris Middleton being the guy who takes the last shot. I don't mind if it's not Giannis. Am I odd for that, or is that wrong?
Well, I'll say this. A couple buddies have texted me. Shout out to my very good friend, longtime friend, Surya Sundar from high school. He texted me asking if the Bucks should let the offense run through Drew and Middleton to close games, to close close games. Drew and Chris as the late game offense. So I thought about it, and I mean, Giannis is the MVP, back-to-back MVP. There's so much focus on what Giannis doesn't do and what he can't do that we forget that there's so many things he can do at an elite level. As a roller, elite, obviously. As a post-up guy, his game is coming along. If you listen to Zach Lowe, which if you're watching this, chances are you do, they talk about the growing jump hook that Giannis is developing. The jumper, I don't really think it's ever going to be like a weapon to be feared, but he's got a lot of different things that he can do. But all of those things are, let's say, best as a second option, as a progression. If you have Drew, Chris, actually, if you be honest with the ball, I did a video of this way back when Jason Kidd was still the coach, is Giannis, and then the point guard comes to set a screen, and Giannis as the ball handler, and just the chaos that creates, because we've talked about this a bunch. I love me an inverted pick and roll, but Giannis to initiate, and then Drew and Chris flowing into some type of action, just the two of them, makes it easier for the defense because it's more switchable. But those two dudes can do so many different things that it bends your defense in a certain way. And then, as the end of the game showed, you got Brook Lopez and Giannis. They can clean up a lot of misses. And so, yeah, maybe the answer isn't for Giannis to develop a jumper. Maybe the answer is for him to be more away from the action, or not necessarily in the dunker spot, but as a roller, forcing help, and then you make reads that way.
What I like off the top of my head, I'm not a coach, by the way. What I like off the top of my head is inverted pick and roll, and this requires Giannis to shoot 70% or greater on free throws, because that's the thing. If he bails the other team out at the line late in games, he becomes less and less viable. I think it's less about the jump shot, more about the free throws for me. But invert the pick and roll, put Drew and Chris on opposite sides so that you can flow into action depending on how the defense reacts. I trust Giannis to make the pass. As soon as Giannis makes that pass, I want him carving out a seal as soon as he's in the paint, and then you flow into second side action. If you get downhill at all, there's a lob. Maybe there's a layup or a dump off, whatever. And if not, as you say, Giannis can clean up a million things on the offensive glass. So I like running stuff like that, is you give Giannis the chance, the first thing, barreling down the middle of the paint for a dunk, free throws, whatever. The defense has to adjust. Provided he can turn the corner, let it ride. If it goes to either side, second side action with one of Chris or Drew, and then Giannis, one of the most dangerous offensive rebounders, cleanup artists there is in the NBA. You're giving yourself chances at good looks, I think, repeatedly. Now, you can't do that every time. The defense will sniff it out, but I think there's the bones of good stuff in there.
Absolutely. And another thing that just came to mind is you can rock a Spain pick and roll. Giannis is a hard roller. You're going to have to deny that because he's a lob threat. And this is crazy, but Giannis Gortatting, it's like he's a big dude with long arms. That's a lot of space you can create by doing that. So, we'll see. Bud is a great coach, despite what people are saying. They can clown him all he wants. There's a reason he gets hired. There's a reason his teams have been atop the East. Is he only a regular season coach? I don't think that's necessarily fair to say, but, I don't speak poorly of coaches more often than not. So I think if there's an answer there, Bud will figure it out. And I think Giannis is a smart enough basketball player, which I do not believe people give him the credit. They think because he's a genetic freak who has worked hard at his game, like in the weight room, being a Euro step, 2 steps, and he's already at the basket type of guy. They don't give him credit for his basketball IQ and what he can do, understanding what the defense is giving him. So they'll figure it out.
Any other Bucks Lakers takeaways?
Yeah, man, if KCP is going to KCP through a game, what are you going to do? There's not a whole lot you can do. The Lakers shot 53.8% on above the break threes against the Bucks.
Who do they think they are? Danilo Gallinari?
That's the first thing I thought of, honestly. But also, if Anthony Davis is going to be the type of playmaker that he was to end that game, the type of passer and decision maker, I don't know. Should we just fast forward to next year? No, because basketball is fun for the viewers anyway. You know, nobody can dap or hug anymore, but we're still playing games, whatever. It's fine. But if AD is going to continue to evolve, he doesn't have to be a LeBron level passer. But if he improves as a passer and decision maker, understanding what reads and where the defense is coming from, just the Lakers are gonna have a real fun time at the finals again.
So, should we fast forward? I watched the Clippers versus the Thunder, and I say no. I see in these Clippers the potential to be very disruptive in the playoffs. They're good as hell, man. And, like, here's the thing. They line up against the Thunder, who are without Al Horford. They still have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is a joke I have written down, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should switch names with Shake Milton because the wiggliest, shakiest guy in the league is Shai. And if his name was Shake, I'd forget about it. I think it'd be great. The thing is, Shai can pick up the ball. His pickup point can be basically anywhere inside the arc, and he'll get to the rim. And you're like, how the hell did this happen? But he's so slinky. His ability to burst from standstill and get past defenders. And the thing is, like, he'll decelerate on the same leg and then explode off of it. And you're like, how are you doing that on the same leg? But he does it, and you'll see, like, he'll just take those Euros and boom, he's going laterally. And then boom, he's headed vertically. And it's just incredible to watch him work. But regardless, Shai is great. Love Shai. But the Clippers, their ability to recognize Isaiah Roby is the starting center, let's just smash into the paint. Spam the pick and roll. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, immediately making their way in there repeatedly. Roby is lost. Dort is getting bumped off his spot a little bit. And Dort doesn't have, Dort is incredible, but he doesn't have, like, incredible recovery speed. It's not like he's getting back into the play. If he stays on the guy, like Kawhi a few times during this game, tried to bump Dort, and, like, that's comedy. That's real comedy because you see Kawhi give him that boom, and it just means Kawhi is fading away now because Kawhi is the one who got bumped, and Dort is right there. He's a fire hydrant. Incredible to see. But the Clippers, who are one of the very best three-point shooting teams in the league, by percentage, I think they are the best. Some of that has to do with Paul George being, like, an absolute heat pump, which he may not be at this level all year. But a team that shoots the three so well, saying, forget it, we're going to the rim. This is kind of linking up with why I picked them to win last year. Of course, they lost. But it's that versatility that especially Kawhi and Paul George provide. Watching Paul George get downhill, a guy who is so explosive and one of the best creators with the drop dribble and the pickup and then the explode, really good at protecting the ball into the paint. Watching those guys figure out we're going to attack the defense in a way that we typically don't, and we're still going to succeed at it. Every time I see a team do that, where they can just go into another facet of their offense and be just as dominant, it makes me think this team is already so much more equipped for the playoffs. That's the thing with the Lakers that will be the most interesting. If these two teams play, is the half-court offense, because the Lakers should be the better defense, but the Clippers should be the better offense. And, okay, so here's the thing, too. I know I'm kind of everywhere on this, but the big deal about this is that Nicholas Batum, God bless him, I'm watching Lupin on Netflix, and it's about a French thief who loves a French thief. Nicholas Batum is a greater thief than anybody. Like, the money he stole from the Hornets, and I'm not counting your pockets, dude. Like, make your money. I'm glad you're enjoying basketball. But the money he stole from the Hornets, remarkably efficient at doing so. Because he's still really good. Like, he's so good at basketball still. I think it was 51, 47, 87 shooting splits. He's second side action. He can run a pick and roll. He can run like a little handoff situation. He'll make clever cuts. As far as like a conduit, like a connecting passer, he's brilliant. Just inserting him into the Clippers makes them so much more fun. And I'm just watching this offense that has so many different ways to attack. And clever. Zubats and Ibaka, I mean, if teams, like what was happening, they were getting downhill far too often, so the Thunder think, okay, we're going to hedge. And so you hedge, you die. Not because they're shooting threes, not because they're getting around the hedge, but, okay, you're going to step up. Guess what? We're swinging it directly to the opposite side. You stepped up. Now you're sealed by either Zubac or Ibaka, and they're just keeping you on their hip as they walk to the bucket. And then the post entry to the middle of the floor comes, and you're like, oh, this team is clinical. The Clippers are clinical, man. And then, if you start loading up on that kind of stuff, they'll just run like a pin down on the opposite side of the floor and then get downhill that way. And you're like, geez, this team can really score. So just watching them, I had a ball. The Thunder didn't provide very much of and I know it's the Thunder, but they compete. They do their thing. The Thunder, the most impressive thing I saw was Gilgeous-Alexander, of course. Darius Bazley, I think, is really interesting. Waiting on a swing skill to develop for Bazley. He just has to bring something else. Is it the jumper? Is it the advanced handle that gets him to spots on the floor where he's more dangerous as a passer? Remains to be seen, but something has to come. The defense is there. Well, it will project to be there. I think he's got the tools. But Dort, seeing Lou Dort run a dribble handoff and then rescreen and then hit a floater is like, Jesus, dude, how did you do it? One off season. And he's like, I got the full bag now. I'm working. He can't pass worth a damn. Like, not worth a damn. But he can score the ball now. And when he gets going downhill, he makes okay decisions. So watching SGA just do an incredible amount of work, considering how keyed in the Clippers defense was on him. So much fun watching him get around the floor. It is that pickup point that makes him so dangerous. That's why, even though he has a slow jumper, he's still effective stepping back and hitting those jump shots, is because his pickup point, you don't know if he's going north or south. And even if it looks like the pickup point is at a place where it's not dangerous, it is. It's always dangerous for him. He's so long. That's super fun to see. Dort, yes. But mostly just watching the Clippers attack in a bunch of different ways. Spam, pick and roll, get to the rim. Zubac comes in. He finished with 8 points, but he had 3 dunks. And over some guys, too, the team was like, hey, we're just headed into the paint, put the helmet on, let's get in there. And so I just loved watching them. I am famously low on Lou Williams, but I don't care. That team with PG, with Kawhi, with Batum, Ibaka being really smart, like Ibaka getting a post up and then swinging it over his shoulder to Luke Kennard, who's cutting baseline. Just bravo. It's remarkable. and they intrigue me. Puncher's chance. I'm not afraid to say it. They could compete with the Lakers. Sorry, it was a fun game. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that jumped out to me is I had just started watching it, and it was halfway through the third, and Ty Lue runs a lot of elbow action based on, we've only ever seen him in Cleveland before this year, but he ran a lot of elbow action for Kevin Love, LeBron. So the UCLA, this was a thing that infuriated me about the Lakers-Bucks game is Chris Webber. We won't get into that. It's fine. But
put him on Inside the NBA. You'll fix everything.
he very accurately described a UCLA cut, and then right after. So what I'm talking about is, if you don't know, I'll have the video up for you, is ball is entered to the wing from the top, from the slot, which is lane line extended. The slot to wing, and then there's a player at the elbow who either will stay there or take a few steps up, and the guy who just passed from the top to the wing uses that screen. UCLA. The thing that infuriated me about Chris Webber is he called it a UCLA cut, and then right after he calls it a flex cut. And it's if you've played high school basketball, if you know what a flex cut, it's just, why? I know you know what it is. Why? Or do I? Or do you? Anyway, sorry. So the reason I bring it up is because the very first play I saw is Kawhi is on the wing. Paul George is up top. Nick Batum is at the elbow. PG passes it to Kawhi, uses Nick Batum, or I guess they sort of screen for each other. It's unclear which way it is, but Kawhi enters the ball to Batum. Batum goes high-low to PG, and it's basically a lob. It's not a dunk, but he finishes over top. And there's nothing the defense can do. Kawhi on Dort, and in principle, those three guys, if you look at their skills, the offensive player skill sets, those three guys, you should be able to switch them defensively, because Shea and Dort and Darius, they're all like-sized, but there's nothing you can do because of how fast and how lethal they are. And the threat of their shooting, so Dort is the one guy who's not going to, because Kawhi has the ball in that instance on the wing, he's not going to leave Kawhi, obviously. But the Batum PG thing, if they had switched, chances are somebody would have ran out to the top and got an open three. Or if you don't, then you have PG who can face up an ISO. Like you were talking about, the Clippers offensively are so impressive to me because they're not doing anything overly complicated. Ty Lue's playbooks are effective and efficient. Doesn't do a lot of overly complicated stuff. Elbow action, it's, if based on me learning the triangle and things like that, it's if you get the ball, elbow, low block. So you take that square there, you get it into one of those four spots, and the defense is already in trouble. They have a number of ways to hurt you from any number of spots. And on the weak side, I haven't even mentioned on the weak side, it's Patrick Beverley spotting up, it's Serge Ibaka spotting up. If they run some sort of hammer action on that weak side, you're dead. If Patrick Beverley and Serge Ibaka are both very good at crashing in for an offensive board, and if it's Serge, there's not a whole lot you can do. Because if he has that runway, he's finishing over you. Patrick Beverley, I think, however you want to feel about him, he is a terrific rebounding guard. So you have that stuff happening, and you're dead any kind of way.
That's why I like them as they were so disappointing last year, but this year, especially with Batum, man, Batum adds a lot. Ibaka adds a lot. And Zubats, if used properly, can give you more. So there's interesting stuff going on in LA on both accounts. And the Thunder, I mean, as ever, SGA is super, super fun. I mean, really, really fun. They have a million, like Pokuševski, such reckless abandon. I mean, this guy will just sling it all game long. No conscience. They say LaMelo Ball has no conscience. Poku doesn't have memory to begin with. Like, the only thing he knows is, like, this inherent basketball feels, and he's just like, basketball is what you do. Now, I don't know about off the court. I'm sure he's very intelligent. On the court, nothing goes through his brain right now except, like, give me a jumper. I'm going to throw down right now. He's just trying to find the next progression to find a way to get the ball in the bucket. Still really bad. Anyway, SGA, very interesting. Dort is so underpaid that he still might be on a contract that's underpaid by the time they become good. Who knows? And, yeah, the Clippers, they killed them. They played today. Here, let me check, see who won. I'm sure it was the Clippers again, if I had to guess. Clippers handled the Thunder, did a good job of it, and they did today as well, winning 108 to 100. 100, yes, that's the number. But I didn't see that game today. But that's generally how I feel about that game. And thank you to Evin for supplementing it with the commentary on the elbow offense, and also, here's the thing. If you want to watch UCLA, I mean, hey, you could just watch some other teams. If you want to see flex action like Chris Webber talks about, you can watch Indy, you can watch Toronto. You'll see some flex action.
Would an episode of Bouncing Around be complete without a mention of the great Caitlin Cooper? What's different between this and other recordings is we both just watched the Raptors-Pacers game. So some outstanding stuff. Just you talk about two dudes who know each other, who've coached against, who know each other's playbooks. A lot of it was, and this is me having coached against guys I have coached with in the past. It's like you know what they're doing and you know how to stop it, but you don't necessarily know if you can get the message to your players quick enough. So it's so much fun when that happens. But, Caitlin Cooper, Indiana Pacers, Indiana Raptors, fantastic. Just wanted to shout her out again.
Yeah, she had her magnum opus come out like shortly before this 2-game mini series that the Raptors are playing the Pacers. And if anybody is interested on all the overlap between the two teams, just type in Caitlin Cooper Pacers. She'll pop up, and you'll be able to find all her stuff through there. But very well worth your time to read. It's wonderful work. But Evin, any other general NBA musings before we get out of here? Tight 35, naturally.
No, I am ready to give you my game of the week for this week if you are.
Okay, let's hear it. What's my game of the week?
All right, you talked about a guy who, is one of the front runners for MVP, and a guy who I love to death and who happened to have 41 points and 9 assists against the Brooklyn Nets. It's Wednesday, January 27th, Nuggets Heat, Bam Jokic. I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Mine, Wednesday. I need somebody to tell me about these Jazz that have been apparently kind of good. Jazz, Mavericks, Wednesday.
Ooh.
That's for you. Yes.
The very garbage, apparently, Donovan Mitchell against, some guy, Luka Doncic, whatever.
I don't think he had what it takes to be better. So what do you thoughts on that?
All right. Oh, man. What? Okay. Anyway, Evin, I think that's it. That sounds like a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man. These are always so much fun. And I'm sorry I lost my mind there talking about inside the NBA. Something snapped, man. Something snapped.
Okay. Listener, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. We have fun doing this always. There's a reason we always go like at least 30 minutes longer than we intend to. Not only is it our complete inability to schedule our lives, but because we enjoy talking basketball. And it makes it all the more tenable and enjoyable when people like to listen. So thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Everybody, stay safe. Take it easy. Samson, you be safe.
Super duper, Mr. Cooper.
Back when they thought pink polos would hurt the rap, before Cam got the shit to pop, the doors is closed. I felt like bad boy street team. I couldn't work the locks. Now let's go. Take them back to the plan. Me and my mama hopped in that U-Haul van. Any pessimists, I ain't talk to them. Plus I ain't had no phone in my apartment.